As a therapist, you can't say that. You can't say the Black community can't have emotion right now because we're hurt, we're frustrated, we're angry. So now you're going to suppress our emotion and say, no, you guys can't feel that way, or you guys can't. And I think that's the whole feeling with like therapy. Like you don't know how to talk, and the Black community really doesn't know how to talk in therapy because we've never had that opportunity to be like, you can feel the way you want to feel.
I'm not perfect, and I don't have all the answers. I don't know anyone who is. In fact, there's always someone who knows more than you about a specific topic. This is a space where conversations and discussions can be had that will help build an understanding of folks from all walks of life. Finally, I hope you, the listener, becomes more knowledgeable about a topic or subject than you did before. Whether it be business, social and political issues, or any other topics that may come up. This is More to Know. And I'm Chris Moore.
Nia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Chris, first of all.
Of course.
My name is Nia Caldwell. I am a licensed master's social worker. I'm getting used to saying it because I just
Congratulations.
This past May. Thank you. So I'm a social worker. I work in the school system. I'm a therapist. Sometimes when people say, oh, you're a social worker, so how can you be a therapist? Our roles kind of are not limited. They're not limited. So I can be in the medical field. I can be in politics. I can be in the school. One of the things that I wanted to choose was to work in the school system. So I work in Baltimore City school system as a therapist.
Nice. And you said you just graduated, right?
Yeah, I just graduated from Morgan State.
I wanted to add that part.
State University.
I know you take pride in your HBCU, so I wanted you to make sure you were able to highlight that.
Thank you. Yes.
What made you want to be a social worker? As much as you want to share.
Well, I started off my route in psychology. I went to a school, we're not going to name it. But I got my bachelor's in psychology, and then I was trying to figure out what I wanted to get my master's in. My sister got her master's in social work, and she was just telling me that social work provides so many opportunities. You can work in politics, medical, like I said before. So I decided to do social work. I wanted to get into therapy, but now that I'm realizing that I can do anything I want, eventually I would love to get on the school board, get into some policies, and dismantle some leadership that's not supposed to be there, change some stuff for the kids that look like me.
That's amazing. That's
Thank you.
Straight from the heart too. Wow. See, it's interesting you say that because, like you said, when you think of social work, I didn't know about the psychology aspect, but it makes sense. It makes sense of the therapy aspect. They tie in, right? Like they're pretty hand in hand.
Yeah, they go hand in hand, but I just feel like psychology is a little bit limited for me. So a lot of people, when you say social work, they think you're like a case manager or you stressed out with all these cases and foster care. And that is social work, but social work is also therapy. And social work is also, working in a councilman's office, which I did. So it's just it's so fluid.
I did have that original mindset of social work. Like, she got cases every day. Oh my gosh.
Right. Burnt out.
Right. Today, some news broke about the ongoing case with Brianna Taylor. As you all who may not be aware, on March 13th, Brianna Taylor was murdered. I'm just going to say murdered during a raid. And first of all, it's a raid that should have never happened. Completely unacceptable. And this is months before George Floyd. A lot of people know about George Floyd. And honestly, you should know about Brianna Taylor. I'm sorry. If you've been under a rock. And if you have, I want to be the person to inform you that it's not okay. And this is not justice. I don't think justice was served. But I, of course, want to get Nia's opinion and just how she feels about all this.
Yeah. I'm taking a deep breath because I feel like that's what the Black community is doing once the news came out. My heart hurts. And I don't think, when they came out with the settlement, I was kind of like iffy because I was like, all right, what are they about to do? Is justice going to be served? Then the family spoke, I believe it was the family, and they were just talking about how they're going to do a lot of police reform. And I'm all about that, like policies, dismantling, all of that. And then, they had the news today where they're only going to charge one officer for not even. And I think the biggest thing is that they're not charging anybody for the death of Brianna Taylor. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, Brianna Taylor's dead, so somebody needs to be charged for
Right.
killing her.
Exactly.
So I think that's frustrating for me. And then as like a therapist, working in the Black community and knowing about mental health and like the stigma of mental health. And then the Attorney General was talking today. And if you guys haven't seen it, he was talking today saying that we don't want you guys to let your emotions drive your hurt or anything like that. And my biggest thing, so that really pissed me off, because as a therapist, you can't say that. You can't say the Black community can't have emotion right now because we're hurt, we're frustrated, we're angry. So now you're going to suppress our emotion and say, no, you guys can't feel that way, or you guys can't. And I think that's the whole feeling with like therapy. Like you don't know how to talk, and the Black community really doesn't know how to talk in therapy because we've never had that opportunity to be like, you can feel the way you want to feel. So with the Brianna Taylor, I'm just like hurt. And then also as a Black woman, I'm like, George Floyd was different, and then a lot of like Black men are different cases, but I just feel like Brianna Taylor took like over 6 months, like you were saying. Why does it have to take so long for Black women to receive justice? Black people in general, but Black women. So, yeah, that's my mouthful. I can go on and on, but
no, and I'm inviting you to. No, I'm not stopping you.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, I think my biggest thing is that this was a time for America to make a statement on Black women that they matter. And I think they failed to do that. You know, we'll talk later in the podcast, like Chris told me, but just about how Black men can appreciate Black women. And then how can the country appreciate Black women? You see, like in women's suffrage movement, everybody was like, oh, the vote was passed, da, 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 da. But we were still fighting for our vote.
Right.
Black women were still there fighting for their vote. And we struggled to get our vote, but we got our voice heard. So I just think that's a lot into the Brianna Taylor, but I think that shows how Black women in America haven't been appreciated. And then with this case, you see that the officers weren't even charged, like for shooting in the air. I'm like, what? So a deep breath for the Black community.
Nia alluded to the settlement, and there was a $12 million settlement that went to Brianna Taylor's family. The official charge, this is according to the New York Times, was wanton, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, wanton endangerment, which, as Nia said, is firing recklessly. So it wasn't even for the murder of Brianna Taylor. There's an FBI case that still has yet to be finalized, but you know, and I know the FBI takes precedence over whatever the Louisville Police Department or even Kentucky has ruled, but you know, I'm gonna be hopeful. All I'm gonna say is I'm gonna be hopeful. But you know, I'm hopeful, but I'm not super optimistic. But I'm gonna be hopeful. That takes me to what you alluded to before earlier. How can me as a Black man and Black men around the world protect Black women?
Yeah, I think that's like a loaded answer, like a loaded question too. And I was like reading some articles before this podcast. You know, I had to make sure what I was talking about.
You're the expert.
Right. But I think uplifting our voices and being behind us, like we're behind Black men, like we're always supported. Like you saw when Obama ran for president, like, yes, the first Black man and stuff like that. And now you see Vice President Harris, and I'm going to call her Vice President, speaking into existence.
Right.
Sorry for those that are not going for her. But, you know, I've heard a lot of people say, you know, things about her, like, oh, she shouldn't do it, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, support the Black woman. She's in, you know, a position of authority, and we should just support her no matter what. But I think the biggest thing is like supporting us, uplifting our voices, and then recognizing like the language that you guys use to describe our behaviors. And I think women need to do better as well. But I think men, you know, oftentimes you hear that Black women are aggressive, or we're emotional, or we're this, that, and the third. And some of that might be true. But at the same point, it kind of puts like a barrier in front of our name. Like, you don't know me as Nia, but you already know me as aggressive. You already know me as emotional. You already know me as I can't keep stop from crying and stuff like that. Like, let us live. You know how like America has not let us breathe. I feel like Black women haven't had the chance to breathe and be them. And you see, like back in history, like women were always the caretakers. So we always had to take on the burden. Men started working first, then we started working, and men were like, whoa, you want to work? Yeah, we want to work. We deserve it too. And I just feel like Black men should applaud Black women for what they do, because we do hold a lot of titles. Like, we're a mother, we're a caretaker. Even if you're not a mother, you still take care of someone. You're working. You have your right to vote, this, that, and the third. So many things that we have fought for. And I think acknowledging that and realizing that we are oppressed as well, not just as a Black woman, but as a female, we're oppressed. And we're constantly trying to push back, those stereotypes, those standards, even with equal pay. Black men are still trying to fight for it, but I feel like as Black women, we're all the way down here and y'all are here. So I think the biggest thing is recognizing your language and how you describe us, and uplifting us in your language, and just being a champion behind us as we're a champion behind you. That's really all I can think of. I mean, that's a lot to go into, and I'm sure people are gonna give their comments and suggestions, but for me, I just think I would appreciate affirmation in your words, because I think sometimes words can be very powerful.
I was just about to say, words are very powerful. As a man, I'm going to work towards doing that, immediately. I definitely try to make sure that I uplift as much as possible.
Yeah. And I think you having this podcast, that's why I applaud you for this podcast, because I think it's amazing that you're taking the time to learn from Black women, and not even, Black women, but just learn from people on how to do better at, uplifting people, and especially Black women. So I applaud you, because you're already taking a step. So.
Well, I appreciate that, Nia. And I mean, I'm grateful to know, powerful and like really smart Black women in my life. And, I thought about you just because I know you went to the first school, which I'm not gonna name. That's where we met, and but you kept pushing towards higher education, and you went to Morgan. I'm sorry, the Morgan State. You make sure you say, like, it just seems like it's always the right thing. I'm like, wow, Nia, okay, that was deep. That was deep. Like, okay, I hadn't thought about that perspective.
Right. I appreciate that.
And I can truly say, like, I've seen you in action, and then just the way you deal with things, and I've learned a lot of things from you. So I think it's important that we value and uplift, especially Black women, because for a long time, Black women haven't been uplifted.
I feel like you have to peel back so many layers with Black women. First you peel back our race, and you peel back that we're a woman. Also with like, on the talk with like VP, future VP, sorry. I went to Morgan State, so I worked at Councilman Cohen's office in Baltimore City, and I don't know if people know, but Mayor Pugh, she had to step down because of some things that she did that weren't appropriate as her position. But along the lines of that, like, you saw so many like people slandering her name, and I saw like one cartoon image of her with like big lips, and they were like saying stuff, and I was just like, so if this was a white man, how would y'all react? Would y'all just like throw it under the rug? Because I'm sure there's other men that are doing it. So that just goes to show, like, women in power, there's just like a different like slander in people's mouth. And I think one of my professors at Morgan State, and I'm gonna call her out, Dr. Davison, she's definitely big on Black women and just uplifting it. And I think I've learned a lot from her. So I can't take the credit for all this. I've learned a lot from her on how to uplift the women in our community. So that's why I'm just like big on that, but I just had to give props to her because she's amazing.
Oh, that's great. Give props to where they do. Give props to where they do. I want to end on a little bit of a lighter note. My question of the day for you is going to be, if you were in the WNBA, what would be on the back of your jersey? What saying or what name would be on the back of your jersey besides your own?
I like that. I thought you were gonna ask me something about like being in the WNBA because I play basketball. So I was like, "Are you trying to do that?" But what would be on the back of my jersey? I think in light of everything that's going on and just being me more aware of like uplifting the Black um, women, I would probably put "Say Her Name." Um, just because I was reading this article about like Black Lives Matter and the movement, which is amazing. I'm for it, but I just feel like sometimes what's lost in it is, saying her name, Sandra Bland, Brianna
Mm,
Taylor, so many other women that have, died by police or just
mm.
died in general. But definitely say her name, and I'll probably have something positive in the front just to make people laugh. But I'm also a baller on the court, so hit me up.
See, that was my I was gonna say that was my alley oop, but I'm not even gonna do that to you.
Oh Lord, don't bring that up.
I'm not. Nia, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. And you have any last words you want to say? Any parting words you want to say?
No, just take deep breaths. We're gonna get through this.
We will.
I think the biggest thing is like Chris said, we're remaining hopeful, like we're not defeated. So don't, get in that defeated spirit because that's when we stop making our ancestors proud. So let's keep it going, keep that flame.
Nia, again, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And I definitely hope to have you back. We need your expertise on a lot more topics.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris.
All right, take care.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of More to Know. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes.